Welcome to Engine Adventures. Today we've got the 2021 Chevy Colorado ZR2. This is the Bison, and we're currently in 4-low with the rear locked. The front's open, but I was surprised to find the traction control kicking in a little bit, even in 4-wheel drive low, which disables the traction control. It's still doing the brake lock differential stuff, what Chevy calls pinion control, but overall really capable. We've seen some other people coming back down and giving up because this trail is so slick right now. About a foot of snow, but it's been packed down to icy conditions. And these Goodyear Wranglers, just the Duratrax, when they're new, are actually really a good snow tire. As they get about to 50% life, they kind of move into a useless range, but when they're new, these are really good tires. The ZR2 is not nearly as smooth as I expected it to be. After driving every Toyota TRD Pro vehicle, I would say every one of those rides better than this. So they do say that this can handle jumping, which Toyota doesn't recommend doing, and Chevy probably doesn't recommend doing either, but the shocks can handle it. And in the Toyota vehicles, they really probably shouldn't be jumped, but they're tuned so much better for this kind of driving, so much smoother than this thing. Power wise, once you're in 4-wheel drive low, I mean, it's got the torque, but you have all the gearing once you're in 4-wheel drive low. And 4-wheel drive high, you really gotta get into it a bit. It doesn't get any power till you're up high in the rev range. But small vehicle, so it's easy on these trails. And this one, obviously the ZR2 sits a bit wider. I'll put that up on the screen, but it's something like 4 inches wider than the regular Chevy Colorado and GMC Canyon. But it's really no problem driving it. That extra width isn't a hindrance on these tight trails. Let's go ahead and get some outside shots. So here are your diff locks, and this is the rear locker. And when you're in 2-wheel drive, it actually engages it. So a lot of vehicles will not engage the rear diff lock in 2-wheel drive. The front, you have to be in 4-low, but for the rear, it's just 2-wheel drive or 4-high or 4-wheel drive auto. Whatever you want to do, you can engage the rear locker. As I mentioned before, this one's a little bit different as I'm not on my normal test hill. We were actually in Southern California, and there happened to be a snowstorm during that time, so we did a snow run, and I'm just going to let this video play while I talk about some other things. The first item I'd like to talk about are the shocks. So these are Multimatic dynamic suspension spool valve shocks, and you can see that there's like 4 reservoirs on that thing. It has quite a bit of wheel travel, but a lot of different damping zones, which allow the truck to handle really well in a variety of situations. So I wasn't able to really do a high-speed run because of the conditions, and when the road was more wide open, there was actually quite a bit of traffic on it. But they did seem to handle better once I got above 20 to 25 miles an hour. For a lot of it, I was stuck in like the 13, 14, 15 mile an hour range, and the shocks seemed to be too stiff. I was getting a lot of feedback. You know, the little bumps were traveling through, you felt every little thing. And I think that was just because I wasn't able to get up into the comfort zone of these shocks, which seems to be a little bit higher. Beyond that, I'm not able to give you any information from how I tested, but I have seen other videos, I've read articles about these shocks, and I know that they can handle some pretty big bumps and hits, and even jumping the Colorado. When they launched it, the journalists got to do some jumping with it, and really these shocks can handle pretty much anything you throw at them within reason. Next up on the list, we have the recovery points on the front of the vehicle. On the rear of the vehicle, they're great, they're right in the bumper, they stand out, but on the front of the vehicle, they are hidden underneath in a really hard to see and hard to reach spot. That's pretty much a full arm's length in from under the front bumper. So if you're stuck and you need to recover or be recovered, as you can see in this picture, it's really pretty hard to use those recovery points. It is nice that they have them. They are frame mounted. It's a very sturdy and strong spot to have them, but they just need to be more visible and more accessible. Next up on the list, we have the four-wheel drive low with the front and rear differentials locked. So this will automatically disengage the ABS, as you'll see on the left of this image here, and you can see the ABS lights on, the traction control lights on. Basically all those systems are disengaged because the wheels are all spinning at the same speed and the truck can't differentiate between when the wheels are locked and when they're not. This is actually really beneficial in a lot of situations. You stop faster on loose terrain, sand, dirt, gravel, snow even, when your ABS system's not kicking in. It'll allow you to skid a little bit, and it kind of digs a hole and makes it so you stop faster. It is detrimental when you're on ice or, rainy slick roads, terrains like that, because then it locks up and you slide rather than having the ABS system bring you safely and slowly to a stop. So it depends on the situation, but for most off-roading situations, that is a really good feature and benefit to have, and just something to be aware of, that when you're in four-wheel drive low, it does disable the ABS. The final thing to talk about here with the extra images is the trailer brake controller, and Chevy did a really good job of hiding the trailer brake controller. So if you're in the driver's seat, it's pretty difficult to see that. If you are going to be towing with your ZR2, I recommend you practice a few emergency situations where you need to pull that trailer brake controller, apply the trailer brakes before applying the truck brakes, and just practice that reach. Be sure that you kind of develop a muscle memory for it, because if you are in an emergency situation and you need to go looking for it, it's going to be difficult to find. Now, the rest of the video will just be talking about a few things and letting this continue to play. We are driving on Goodyear Wrangler Duratrax. This is the factory tire for the ZR2, and these are actually performing quite well in the snow, and you can see it's a little bit icy. Even without airing down at all, the tires are doing a pretty good job of leading the truck where I want it to go. And the lockers, of course, make a big difference. I'm driving most of this with just the rear locker on. There are a few times I play around, drive into the deeper snow, and try out the front locker just to see what it will do. But this trail is best driven in four-wheel drive low with the rear locker on, just due to the conditions that it has right now. So we were starting to run out of daylight. We decided it was about time to head home, but wanted to try and do one last hill. And I want you to watch the rear wheel right here, and you can see how much articulation there is. So I didn't get any good outside photos of this articulating, so you can't really get a good reference point. But these shocks do allow for a lot of suspension travel, and surprisingly it kept the wheels on the ground the whole time. Here we give it full throttle basically to try and make it up this hill, and even with the front locked and the rear locked, it's just not able to do it. The tires, had I been aired down, I think would have made a big difference. I saw other Jeeps going up here with really big tires and most likely aired down, and they seem to just be floating on top of the snow. But you can see we were kind of just digging in, and I didn't want to tear up the track too much, so called it quits. Two final notes here: vehicle weight and tires. So here we have a stock F-150 coming up the hill. He was actually kind of stuck in these ruts here, kind of struggling to make it up, and we had to pull off. Well, we tried to pull off and let him go by, but he wasn't able to make it by, so he had to back down. As we come down the hill, we'll see a pair of Jeep Cherokees, and these Cherokees are extremely lightweight, very, very capable. They look pretty well built for off-roading, and then they have large tires. So they're very lightweight, and they have large tires, which makes it so that they can float on top of the snow really easily. And you can see this guy just pull off the trail out of my way, no problem, while others were struggling even to drive up the trail. On our way up, we run into a Land Cruiser with some BFG KO2s. Excellent tire, excellent vehicle, but he was just too heavy on not a big enough tire to make it up this. Those are two major factors when winter driving, and especially in terrains like sand and mud, stuff like that. Having these big wide tires and lightweight vehicles makes all the difference in the world. Thanks for watching Engine Adventures Off-Road Snow Run with the 2021 Chevy Colorado ZR2 Bison. I know this one was different than the normal off-road videos, but it was still a fun drive for me nonetheless. I hope you're able to get some good information out of it, and if you did, be sure to hit subscribe and ring the bell so you get notifications when we post new videos, and comment down below with any questions or comments you may have. If you give me a thumbs down, be sure to comment down below and let me know why. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.